Hey guys, Eric out in the alley. It sure is windy out there. There's garbage cans flying everywhere. It's not a good environment. It was garbage day and lightweight garbage cans and high wind. But well, I pray we get some rain. But today, this is my buddy Ross's truck again. He finally quit using it for a little bit and went on vacation. I taped up his old wiring harness where it was having a number 2 injector. And this is a spider injection under the intake. It was having a number 2 injector circuit. Very rarely it would happen. Every month or two, or every couple months rather. And it came back on last time we drove down the alley. All I did was I grabbed it right here and shook a little bit, and then came right out of it. So while he was gone, I just put a new wire going in there for the injector control circuit for number 2. But sadly, whenever I ohmed the wire out after, I took it out, I was taking it out of there one way or the other after seeing what I saw. And I ohmed it out, and I could bunch it up, crumble it in my hand, and I couldn't get the ohms to change. So, but what I did do is I cleaned up everything again. I made sure that the injector plug was in good. I made sure that the PCM plug was in good. It was all cleaned up. And this just had a lot of heat damage to the harness, so I just took off most of the old, the corrugated stuff, and I taped it up pretty good. And put a couple zip ties where I had to keep wires. I like keeping them more stationary than the way they were bouncing around in here. So, but I got the lid off, and I just hooked up the number 2 injector on the central plug, and I was going to do that, and I was also going to get a current ramp off of the fuse box on all 6 injectors and just see if we could do any comparison. I could get it off just the one almost just as easy right at that plug, but I just want to see if maybe in number out 2, why is it picking on number 2 every time? But we might have fixed it in the harness, we might not, but I want to see, gather as much information as I can. And I was going to hook up and then show both out, but after hooking up Hscope to this, this is the oscilloscope mode. I just figured I wanted to stop what I was doing real quick, because I'm going to be doing that in automotive mode with the current ramp and the voltage waveform. Yes, of course, it's one of them Chevys that you have to keep turning. And that's just in scope mode. It's very, very clear. You can't ask for any more definition in the thinner hump than that. Let me see what I'm set on. As far as the sample rate on there, it's at 75. And I got a 160 volt scale just to keep the peak. And then I got on a times 20 because I got a times 20 attenuator on it. And see, you could kind of, every now and again, you'll hear this thing just, that it's, I don't think it has nothing to do with this injector. But it's like, see if we could catch something. It's got high miles on it too, and it's a V6 he used, pretty heavy for carpentry. But I just want to show you guys what a nice waveform that puts out just on the oscilloscope mode. That's what I use to zero in. I don't know if you're going to be able to tell with the glare, but I'm in the driver's seat. So when the glare is going to get me. I got the time base on a little bit too long to catch the whole pulse width opening for the injectors, but I just figured out something to show to put in there. I was so impressed with it, I figured I'll take a second and just show it on the scope mode. Usually that's what I use for the setup, and then once I get a good signal, I move over to the automotive module. But that was pretty good for the oscilloscope. I like that. We're going to see what it does with both of them next. Hear me. This is where I started. I wanted to get good capture of it clamped around the actual control wire for number 2 cylinder. And well, you can see it's a pretty decent image. And this is what I was expecting to see, is that like the current ramp starts and the pintle opens and how long the fuel injector's staying open, and then whenever it closes, the magnetic field collapsing and the pintle closing again. That looks pretty good on this. Now let me shut the car off 1 second. Now this is the setup I was just using there. The current clamp's going around the wire. It's actually being back probed. It's the green and black, the control wire for the number 1 or number 2 injector rather. Now what I wanted to try, and I ran past real quick before, I connected the amp clamp to the fuse box to the injector fuse. Now the current ramps weren't lining up with any with the actual voltage, so that's what led me to just put the current clamp around the 1 and see if it looks like a traditional, what I was looking for, because these are spider injectors, but they're the same thing. But now why, coming back to the fuse box, and I'm going to hook it up and I'm going to show you what I mean, but I couldn't find any. I was thinking as a way, if I was getting all 6 and I seen a weak one, if I was back probed into the injector that I already suspected or something like that, couldn't I use that to sync, to tell me which injector was which, seeing them all the current ramps, but only seeing the waveform of one injector's voltage. So let me hook it back up to that, and then I'll show you what I was talking about. Okay guys, this is what I was talking about. After running it, that's enough info. The current ramps do not line up. So that's a little bit different than I was expecting to see. This is what I did first, and then I went to the other way, and it looked like more like what I was expecting to see. I wanted to give it a little, a couple snaps in the rev, see what it looks like too, because this is all just for, experimentation purposes. So I want to see what it looks like. See if I could see, the injector width changing, see what the coil ramps look like under load, but I kind of wish I was just still on the single wire for that, but we'll see what happens. Alright, stop that. We'll take a look at that. Now we're just fighting the fan for right now, the sounds. Get some of that exhaust gas out of here. But now, here's when I go back and look at the data we have. We could see, if you want to go right to a snap, or whenever it was idling, you could see the current ramps are staying and the voltage is staying, far apart, and then they get closer together. So you could tell we're under snap there, and nowhere on this waveform does the ramps ever line up with it. I mean, that wouldn't mean much, but it's still puzzling. mean, the image was great on the control wire itself, which is, you know, what you'd be after if you were looking for a bad injector. But these ramps aren't even nowhere near where they are just going with the single wire. Alright guys, I don't even know what to say about that. I mean, it did exactly whatever I wanted it to do for measuring the current ramp and the voltage waveform at the same time coming off of the top of the spiders, but it's kind of a little curveball there and not coming in right off of the fuse box like I figured it was going to off of the current loop. But at any rate, you know, I mean, it would have definitely got me what I wanted, but if I would have started at the fuse box, you know, maybe there's something to that. Anybody knows. I mean, hey, you know, definitely leave me a comment because I want to know. But it's a good way to see all 6 current ramps to know if one of them's not, you know, opening the pendule. Now, what we seen was the pendule closing with the voltage. We want to see them both, and that way you still you can move the current clamp around. But, you know, us being humans, we want to take the easy way out. If we could get all 6 at once, I mean, that's what we want. But, you know, this is Ross's work truck, and, you know, it's such a nice setup to be able to be back here and be getting all my readings and using the Android tablet. I really do like that about Hscope. I mean, I love this, that I was going to do that. I don't know, you guys have seen, I got a new old Modus. I mean, I only had a 6-foot screen cord for the screen. I got a 10-foot extension, so I'm going to be able to get 15 feet out here. I like using the big screens. That's why I like the Android. That's why I like using my tablet. It's a lot better than looking at a small screen. Even that Modus, I don't want to look at that little screen. I want to see it up there. But alright guys, thanks for watching. If anybody has any info on that, hey, definitely drop me a comment. Alright, adios. You guys, again, this is why I like having Hscope right on the end of the cart like that, because I forgot to do a charging and starting test that I want to do just basically on everybody's. You know, these are all my friends' cars. I could save the files. If I see, you know, the battery's a little bit weak and it's weaker next time, I could give them a heads up. Let them know about any charging system issues. I mean, older alternator. Excuse me, battery looks like it's been in there a while. So we just want to give everything a good try. I just wheeled the cart over, put the cables on the probes. I mean, still loving these cables from Grunter. I mean, as long as they are, I like being away from the car. Not just for the noise. I mean, I just like having my little space. I'm only working off of a side cart, and it's not even a diagnostic side cart. This is my regular. You know, there's nothing in here but wrenches, ratchets, things like that. You know, I have a couple leads dangling. I got that little box there filled with the scope stuff, so I'm only working off this little sidecar, but it works out great moving it around. But alright guys, I'm going to switch over to screen recorder. I'm going to turn it on. Now this car should have clear flood mode, so the beginning of the test, because you can see it's going to let me run it for 3 minutes and 12 seconds. And I don't need to run it quite that long, but I'm going to hold the pedal to the floor, see if I could get a relative compression off the beginning, then let it start, and then I'm going to let it run for, I don't know, 30 seconds, so start turning on headlights, everything I can, blower motors, everything. Alright guys, let's catch you on the flip side. Here I am on the flip side. I have 20 milliseconds of division, and I'm on the automotive module. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit record. I'm up on the 12. It's okay, we're at 12.81, which isn't great for sitting, but I mean, it's still good. So we're going to start and see what happens. I'm going to start increasing the loads on it. All right, that'll give some kind of idea. Guys, now here's the RC part of it. It did have clear flood mode, I figured, because it was a Chevy it was going to, but now I want to measure how far down the battery drops, so I'm going to just put a cursor in, drag it down to the tip. It looks like she dropped a little under 9. Like 8.92, which with the scope, you know, normally on your, with the multimeter, I mean, that's a bad battery. With the scope, that's a little on the low side, but it's still doing a good on it for our purposes. Now, the RC itself, whenever you do raise it a little bit, we see some and they do repeat. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We got a couple got more compression than the others, but it's all, I'm not sure exactly what the specs are, but we don't have nothing dropping out. I mean, like if you measured from, if you put a set of rollers down and went from here, like the top of your lowest to the top of your highest, yeah, get your difference. I mean, what is the spec for that? I'm not quite sure, but if I seen something really iffy, I'd definitely be looking. But that looks pretty good. Now that's whenever it was not cranking, I had my, or not starting, I had my foot to the floor and clear flood. Here's where I let it start, and it's the same thing. No, actually, see, that's easier to make a mistake on, being so the engine wasn't catching, or maybe because it was, you know, not being, it just immediately started up again. But if we take a measurement here where it actually started to run, we didn't go under 9. But if we go back here, when I had my foot to the floor and didn't let it start, you know, it wasn't really as high. But if you were doing a regular charging test, you'd be letting it start anyway. But I was like getting that RC in there, that's a freebie. And here you could see where the engine started and the alternator started charging. We could drop another cursor to see what we're right around that 14 line. Right there, we're at 14.1, and it should start putting out a little bit more. Now here where you see the dips, that's where I started adding and shutting off. Voltage actually went up there. These little blips are like the windshield wipers. This should be the windshield wipers in series. And I believe this would have been the headlights here. With the headlights, we dropped down momentarily to 13.47. those would have been more than likely the headlights again. Everything I could put on. This one was the AC. Now with the AC running, we dropped down to 12.64 volts. Then it stays steady, then I start turning things back off. And that was it, guys. Quick charging test. You could save this file, and I have it. You know, next time Ross comes in, could check his battery. If we're dipping down a little bit more, we know when that, you know, keep somebody from needing a tow. That's what it's all about. Like, if you could get a little bit of insight on what's happening, what's going to happen next. And this one was too easy. When I had it hooked up before, the battery's on this side of the truck, but it's just too easy to wheel the box over and, you know, hook it up. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Adios.